Hello everyone. You're welcome to another dbrown consulting webinar on the Excel Clinic, where we basically show you and guide you through very interesting ways of solving real-world Excel problems. So welcome everybody. And so today's webinar, we basically, how we do it, I think I've seen some people that have already attended before, but the approach for, I'll just go through the approach for our webinar and how we're going to do this webinar today. And of course, we're going to allow you to ask various questions at the end, but we've compiled some of your questions that you've already sent through when you registered. So a little bit about me. So I have about, let's say, 20 years, 15 to 20 years experience working with Excel, modeling, business intelligence tools. Currently, I'm the principal consultant of dbrown Consulting, which is the firm sponsoring these webinars. I'm also an international consultant with the World Bank. I kind of concentrate with the World Bank or advise them on oil revenue modeling. I've trained about 4,000 participants in about 4 continents, and I'm also a ATD master trainer. So I've been using Excel for a very, very long time, and I have a lot to share with you. And so let's get started. But let me give you a brief about DBC. So DBC is dbrown Consulting, firm started 10 years ago. Our main mantra is that we want to make you an excellent analyst. And one thing about analysts worldwide is the biggest tool, or the tool they use most, is Excel. Currently, like 1 billion people are using Excel worldwide, and Excel has changed a lot. So hopefully through this webinar, I'll try and give you an insight into how Excel has changed, because it's changed a whole deal. We're going to first look at the Excel questions for this session, the ones you sent in. Then we do a quick overview of the Excel interface. I'll answer questions, of course, all the questions sent ahead. And then we do general live Q&A. Then I'll give you a bonus tips and tricks, and then we wrap up. So your questions that came in, quite a few very interesting questions came in. So what I've done a word cloud. I did a word cloud. This is a tool on Power BI. So I've done a word cloud of your questions, and I can see VLOOKUP popping up, macros popping up, data formatting, modeling, VBA, format, problems, pivot, particular, learning, conditional. I can see reconciliation and MS Excel. So this is just a kind of word cloud of all the questions you've asked. And one theme I've seen in most of the questions is reconciliation. There's a lot of people that are asking about things to do with reconciliation and advanced Excel functions and formulas. And a lot of you have also asked about modeling. So financial modeling, at the end of the day, end of the course, the session, I'm going to give you a special offer. So that would really help, especially those that have asked for modeling. So just wait till the end and get that special offer. So let me start by talking about main challenges I have seen, working 20 years and seen about, I don't know, countless problems with about 5,000 people that I've helped. What challenges have I seen? Well, I call it the 80-20 rule. That's the kind of challenge I've seen with analysts working. The 80-20 rule for me is 80% of our time is spent finding and connecting to data, and that time spent just finding and connecting to data is really a wasted time. It's wasted knowledge from us. So we use the Excel is used as a database. Excel is not a database, it's an analysis tool. So Excel is used as a database. You have hundreds of Excel files. Everybody has one folder, January, lots of Excel files, February, March, April, May, June, July. That's not how to use Excel. Excel is not a database. Excel is an analytical tool. So most times you just need one single report, and then you do your analysis, and that's it. So you need to reshape and clean data. So you use VLOOKUP a lot just to clean your data, prepare your data, reporting, distribution. You repeat this action every single month, and you have thousands of Excel files. So 80% of your time is really wasted. Now, what should it be? I think the best thing you should do with your time is what you're currently only using 20% of your time for, which is time to spend exploring and visualizing data, and then providing real-world analytics that affect the bottom line of your businesses. So your brain is the most powerful thing, but you're only using it 20% of the time. 80% of the time you're gathering data which a computer can do automatically, or if you know how to use Excel well, it will do it by itself. So that 20% of time spent really exploring and visualizing data, Let's flip it. You need to flip the 2080 to 8020. So you should spend 80% of your time visualizing data. Now, how do you do that? Is be more efficient in Excel, which is what we're going to talk about here. So I'll go straight into the menu and let's see the 10 questions that made it for this webinar. If you look at it, how to program the Naira currency symbol, that made an appearance in our first webinar. And again, in this webinar, people want to know how do you program Naira sign. Dashboard for data analysis. This was Omole Samuel asked about dashboard for data analysis. I guess he wants to know how do you create a dashboard from data analysis. Then Ogundimo Akinyola and Akinte Rachel asked how best to use pivot tables. And Adamu Aliyu asked about reconciliation techniques. But a lot of people have actually asked about reconciliation techniques, which is quite good. Graphs and charts, another question from Oke Oluwaseun. Oguru Agatha asked about what if problems. How to link multiple sheets. Amakri Ibinabo asked about how to link multiple sheets. How to merge data to an existing data in Power Query. And someone else asked that. That's Iwoha Noble. And then Isaac or Arokoyo asked about, I want to know how to use complex Excel tools. And many people also asked questions related to array formulas. So that's what we're going to go through today. All right. But before we go through, I would like to ask you guys one question, since you've asked all these questions, right? So let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask just a poll, really. Everybody's going to poll. It's basically which of these Excel tools have you used? I'm going to pull up a list of Excel tools, and I want to know how many people have used these tools. So all of you should just vote on the poll. Just click, 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 and let me know which of these Excel tools you have used before. Once you're done, I'll tell you what you've voted. Okay, the results coming in so far, 71% of you have done VLOOKUP before. That's excellent. 43% have seen pivot tables. I'm impressed that at least 10% know Power Pivot. So that is excellent. And even more know Power Query. Are you guys voting right? Are you sure? That more people know Power Query than Power Pivot? That's interesting. And index and match, about 20% of you know index and match. That's super. All right. So I think we've got in the results. I'm going to close the poll now. So the 50% of you have used pivot tables, 18% Power Query, 18% index and match, 9% Power Pivot, and VLOOKUP, over 73% of you have used VLOOKUP. Excellent. So let's get back to our webinar. All right, so we're going to start with how to program the Naira sign. Now, this is something that I see a lot. Let me just go to a sheet where I have some figures, so I'll show you. So if you look at your screen, you see all these figures for revenue. Most times we go to home and then we click on currency. This is the currency symbol. When you click on the currency symbol, it brings the standard currencies. The standard currencies are about pound, dollar, euro. We will like Naira in there. Of course, we use the Naira sign. Now, unfortunately, how Excel implemented Naira was more NGN, as in they used NGN. But NGN is too long, isn't it? It's NGN. I mean, I'll come in here and type NGN. NGN is not really our Naira sign. And then some of us resort into typing N and then putting a one strike through, which is not really cool. So let me show you how to get the Naira sign. The very first thing we need to do is get the Naira sign. Once we get the Naira sign, we're going to program it into our computer so it knows that our currency is Naira. So how do you get the Naira sign? Well, you just go into a cell, then you click on your, you're basically going to insert a symbol. Naira is a symbol. So you go to insert. Once you go to insert, by the way, I'm using Excel 2016. A lot of us have 2010, 2013, and 2016. 2016 is like a Porsche, it's like a Ferrari. It's something else. I'll tell you a little bit about it later. Anyway, so insert, we go to insert, then we go to symbol. Once you click on symbol, you'll basically see symbols, yes? So we see symbols, but really the trick is this. You need to, let's go to a normal text. You should change your text to Arial, yeah? Why Arial? Well, there's some text that don't really have the Naira symbol or Naira sign. There's some text fonts, some fonts that you can't see the Naira sign. So first thing is change this to Arial, because I know definitely Arial has the Naira sign. Then you come down to the bottom right here, bottom right, and you would see something called Unicode hex. Yeah. So there are various ways you show text, the standards. There's ASCII and there's Unicode hex. Make sure you choose Unicode hex. So Arial, Unicode hex, now the top right, you will see the subset. Change your subset to currency. Your subset, you change it to currency symbol. Change your subset to currency symbol. Where are we? Here we go. Once you do that, you have Arial, currency symbol, and Unicode hex, you will see the Naira sign. The Naira sign will be hiding somewhere here. Where is our Naira? Naira, where is it? Hello, someone has a question? Okay, so I've seen the Naira sign. Here we go. That's the Naira sign. So the Naira sign character code is 20A6. So I'm going to insert it and close. Now I have found the Naira sign. Now one thing you should know when you're working in Excel is to be efficient in Excel, you need to automate as much as possible. Now when I say automate, I don't mean macros. That's what many people make that mistake. Excel can automate loads of stuff as Excel. Macros is run by VBA, which is a different application attached to Excel to automate stuff using VBA code. Now, the best way to automate is in Excel itself. So see this Naira sign, we are going to copy it. I'm going to highlight and Control-C, copy. The first thing I want to do is automate. I don't want to go through that process to get the Naira sign. Yep, I want to be able to just bring it in somehow. For example, if I type NGN and enter, I want the Naira sign to appear. So look at what I'm going to do. You remember I copied it. I'm now going to go to File, Options. So this is a trick to basically bring in, convert NGN to the Naira sign. All right, so we have Excel options. Then under Excel options, you go to Proofing. When you go to Proofing, you will see Autocorrect options. Now, autocorrect options, this is very cool tool. Autocorrect options, you come to replace and say NGN, and I want to replace it with the Naira sign. Guess what? We copied the Naira sign before, so you just do Control-V. So NGN replaced with the Naira sign, you add that to your autocorrect, and then you say OK, and you say OK. The cool part of this is whatever we do in that Excel options, or the options, it affects all of Office. So in your Word, in your PowerPoint, all of it works as well. So now what we've done is we've programmed NGN. Anytime I type NGN and I enter, you will see it's now the Naira sign. But that's not all. I need to program my currency symbol. So if I come to Home, you see this currency symbol here. I need to have the Naira sign in here so that anytime I click it, it just brings the Naira sign. So how do we do that? There's another trick. This is not really an Excel thing now. It's more like an Office or a Microsoft thing. I need to go to my control panel, really. So I need to go to control panel. So the first thing to do is we go to control panel. And then once we go to control panel, we're going to somewhere called regional and language options. So I go to clock, region, and language and region. Then I go to region and language. So once I click region and language, you have this box. You will now go to additional settings. Okay, you go to additional settings. Once you get to additional settings, you will see number, currency, time, date. Go to currency. Once you go to currency, you will see the pound sign, yeah? And you see the dollar sign and you see the euro sign. Remember, we did a Control-C. If you remember, we copied this Naira sign. It's very important you copy it first. Now, all you do is delete this pound sign and do Control-V. Control-V, basically, Control-V, I'm pasting that Naira sign into this currency symbol here, all right? Once you do that, you can decide, you can change your negatives. I want to change my negatives to brackets. I prefer brackets. See this Naira sign here? You just apply. Once you apply, everything now changes to Naira. Remember, this is control panel. What you're doing here is affecting your entire computer. Yeah? So we click OK, and then we click apply, and we click OK. So we have programmed our currency in our control panel. And now when I go to Excel, can you see it's already automatically changed to Naira? So if I highlight these figures and I come to Home, I click on this drop, I just click in the middle here, it's now a Naira sign. If I click on the drop down, I see a Naira sign, I see the Naira symbol, and I see the other symbols, dollars, you can pick dollars, but the default symbol is now Naira. So that's quite critical. You should do that for all your reporting, and your reporting will really look far better than it is now. All right, super. So that's all about Naira. Let's go to the next question. The next question was about dashboard for data analysis. So we're going to talk about dashboards for data analysis. Let me pop out some dashboards. We have a course called Creating Executive Dashboards, where you basically master the skills that actually give you this. So this is, I'm actually borrowing from that course. So this is actually the 5-day detailed course on advanced Excel and creating dashboards and stuff. So we'll give you a methodology for how you create dashboards. Now, let me just give you the quick methodology for how you create dashboards. When you want to create a dashboard, you need mainly 3 sheets, just 3 sheets. You of course need a sheet that houses the dashboard, you need a control sheet, and then you need your data sheet. Yeah? So you need your dashboard, I'll just add one more sheet really. You need a calculation sheet as well. So you need your dashboard sheet, your control sheet, your calculation sheet, and your data sheet. So if you look here, we have dashboard, control, calculations, and then for this particular exercise we have 3 databases. That means 3 places where data reside. So if I go to the main database, for example, so this is a typical data from a company. You have data that follows certain rules. Your data must be stored in a certain way. We call it the 7 golden rules, yeah? Where your data must be in one single table. Now, if you look at it, we have date, customer, sales, region, products, average order size, unit price, revenue, on-time delivery. Was this delivery on time or not on time? Customer satisfaction, profit margin, profit, customer ranking, right? So those are what we have. All right, so I was talking about pivot tables, right? So I was talking about pivot tables and saying that your pivot table must follow certain rules. So this is our data. We're just going to quickly create a pivot table with our data. Remember we did this currency work here. Let me quickly get that out. Let me make either all of them just without the currency, so it's the same. All right, when you're creating a pivot table, you need to define 4 things, really. 4 things. What are the 4 things you need to define? So if you look at this report, you need to ask yourself, in my report, what should I show? What should I show in my row of my report? Which is, what should I show in my rows of my report? What should I show in the columns of my report? What do I want to be, what items do I want to enable to filter my entire report? Which is basically this thing up here. Yeah, this up here. This is going to filter your entire report. So line of business, I'll be able to filter this entire report by line of business. So question is, what do I want in my rows? Right here, I want models in my rows. What do I want in my columns? I want regions in my columns. What do I want to filter? What do I want to enable to filter my entire report? That's my report filter. And then what am I analyzing? Those are the 4 things you ask yourself. So draw your report on paper first. Once you draw your report on paper, then you'll be able to easily answer, create a pivot table. Remember, I haven't started a pivot table yet. The key thing is understand what you want, which is this report I'm looking at right now. Understand in this report what's in my rows, what's in my columns, what am I analyzing, and what report filters do I need. Once you've written that on paper, then you're ready to create your pivot table. So once I've written that on paper, I now go into my data and ensure that my data follows the 7 golden rules. Yeah, those 7 golden rules I talked about. All your data table must have only 1 row of headings, no empty columns, no empty rows, dates must be in a single column, no subtotals or totals anywhere around your data, and you shouldn't have any obstruction anywhere around your data, not typing stuff aimlessly towards the end of your data. Yeah, so those are the rules, really. Those are the golden rules for working with your data. Now, every unique item must also have its own column. For example, region is unique. I don't want to see region on top of market. Market has its own column, region has its own column, store has its own column. Now we are ready to create a pivot table. You go to insert. To create it, you go to insert, pivot or pivot table. Okay? So once you insert pivot table, it highlights the data. Can you see that? Pivot table highlights the data for you. It's already highlighting it because you have followed those rules. When you follow the rules in Excel, Excel is very easy. So click OK. and it brings out a blank slate for you for your pivot table, ready for you to create your pivot table. Remember, I told you before you create your pivot table, you must ensure that you know what report you want to create. Yeah? So understand clearly the kind of report you want to create, right? So we already knew the report we want to create. Let me remind you. The report we wanted to create is this. So I want to create this report. What's in my row? Model. What's in my column? Regions. What am I using to filter the entire report? Line of business and market. What am I analyzing? Revenue. All right? So all you do is you go back to your pivot table. The model is in my row. Region is in my column. All you do is drag and drop. See, I'm just dragging and dropping into these buckets. What am I analyzing? Revenue. I take revenue and go to values. That's what I'm analyzing. And can you see your pivot table is just creating itself. So using pivot table is not the issue. It's understanding what you want that's the issue and knowing where to drop what. Remember, line of business was going to be our report filter. And if I remember right, I think market was also our report filter. So we've created it. Look at it. This is your pivot table. This is the total revenue and everything. Nice and clean. But what is missing? Something is missing. Look at it. Our report says we need, let's look at this report. What is this report? It's more like a percentage of, if you see 100% on here, we're saying North Central is contributing 12.41% of the total revenue for this company. Right. Okay, so that's what we're seeing there. North Central is contributing 21.75%. Okay. Southwest is contributing 21.82%. So it's more like a percentage of total kind of thing. So all we do is come to pivot. Once you've created your pivot, there's some beautiful analysis tool available to you. All you need to do is right-click one of the figures. Once you right-click one of the figures, you go to summarize values by, or you go to show values as, or you go to show details, you remove some. There are all sorts of nice things you could do here. But the key thing is show value as. So this value I'm showing, if you see the right, it says no calculation. These are all the other analysis you can do. Different analysis, but all you want is percentage of grand total, and you see your pivot table just changes to the percentage of grand total straight away. And this is the report that we wanted. And remember, this report, you could have 1 million rows and you're analyzing it in seconds with pivot table. Pivot table is extremely powerful. Well, it's just a short, we want to quickly go to another question. The next question is reconciliation techniques. Now, in my life of 20 years working with Excel, this has been one of the biggest problems most people have. All right, so I would like us to ask a question, as in how many of us have had reconciliation issues? I would like someone to talk about their reconciliation issues. Anyone wants to put your hands up to talk about reconciliation issues you've had? I have Meg. Anybody wants to talk about reconciliation issues? Ayo is on the line. Ayo? Ayo, could you speak?
Yes.
Hi, Ayo. So can you talk about what reconciliation issues you've had?
Well,
hello, Ayo.
Yes, hello. I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So just a quick, what reconciliation issues have you had in Excel in your days? How long have you used Excel? Let's start with
6, 7 years.
6, 7 years. Wow, cool. And in that time, have you had to do some major reconciliations and used Excel?
Man, they were so major. I almost thought of retiring from Excel altogether.
You thought of retiring from Excel? Did you find this?
3 years were hell. Oh yes, I did. Just try and keep it as simple as possible, and try not to use too many formulas. So the day you forget something, it's not difficult finding the way forward.
Yes. So you basically got your way around it. So what techniques did you use to do reconciliation?
But I think anyway over time.
Yeah. So what technique works for you? What's the technique that really works for you? Hello?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, I was saying what technique really works for you when it comes to...
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, what technique really works for you when it comes to reconciliation?
Oh, it's a very simple technique, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the simpler the better. Okay. Part of why I am doing this course is to now start exploring newer ways of getting the same problem solved. Because the problem with being simple is that when the data gets really large, then there's a problem. You now have to spend more time getting the same type of work done, but if it's small data, not too much, you can be simple about it. But when it's really large, over 10 years, over 5 years kind of data, then there's a big problem because you now need formulas, you need to link Excel sheets and charts, and you have to start cleaning, trim, proper clean, all of that. So that's really part of why I'm here, to understand how to work with large data sets.
It's nice you mentioned that. So I'll just give a quick tip for you and everybody really. Whenever it comes to large data sets, the problem I see is we've turned Excel into a data management system where we have, in a single folder, you have 100 Excel spreadsheets. You have January, you have February, you have March, you have inside January, you have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in various sheets. I don't know if that is your experience as well.
Oh yes, it is. Until and if I can tell anyone for free that the day your system, God forbid, crashes, you will not know why you shouldn't do that.
Yes, exactly. So there's something called database. You know, there are databases out there.
We all do.
But we don't use databases. So we basically try to explain to people how you could use Excel as not as a database, but more as an analytical tool. So for example, you have January data. In your January data, you have to follow those 7 rules I mentioned. Then February data should come under January data, not as a separate sheet. It should come under January data, March data under February data, but we may not have time to talk about Power Query. It's a very wonderful tool that combines all your data in seconds. But let's look at some reconciliation techniques now. One major issue with reconciliation people have is bank reconciliation. Now, for bank reconciliation, it's just a reconciliation. And I'm one of those that believe that you should reconcile to the penny. You should not have rounding. There's nothing like rounding errors in my book. You have to reconcile everything. So if you look at this bank statement, you have your date, you have your reference, you have details, you have debits, credits, balance. Now for for any reconciliation actually, what you're doing is they're reconciling something against something else. So Ayo, thank you very much. Ayo, I'll just put your mic up. Thanks a lot for contributing. All right, thanks Ayo. For bank reconciliation, for any reconciliation really, you're comparing something against something else. That's basically what you're doing. You're trying to reconcile A against B, right? So you're saying, is this thing in A and is it in B?
It's an experience. Just go and see where they are.
Okay, sorry, that was Meg. Okay, so you're basically saying something in A. Are you also in B? Are you in A? Are you in B? Now, if for bank reconciliation is not a simple A and B, it's actually 4 things you're reconciling. You're saying, hey, this debit that's in my bank statement, was it credited in my bank, in my cash? And then this credit that's in my bank statement, was it debited in my cash? And then when you go to cash, you're asking the same question all over again. You're saying, okay, this debit in my cash, cash book. This debit in my cash book, is a corresponding credit? Is there a corresponding credit in my bank statement? And then this credit in my cash book, is there a corresponding debit in my bank statement? For those non-accountants here, sorry, this is what accountants go through. But it's quite a simple thing. The key thing you need to find is a reference. If you do not have a reference that uniquely identifies a transaction, both in your bank statement and in your cash book, then you have a problem. Yeah? But I'm going to show you a situation where that unique reference doesn't exist and how you can create it. Okay? So for this case study, we basically have a unique reference called reference, which is basically your deposit slip number and your checkbook check number. So if I go to the bank, I'm going to ask a question is, this reference, this reference that's in my bank statement, do you exist in my cash book? And if you look at it, it does. Can you see? This 208 is reconciling to this. But you can't, that's when you do it manually with your pencil and paper. If you had 10,000 or 100,000 rows of this to do, you can't do it manually. You need to use Excel. So the nice thing about Excel is, I always say write formulas once. Just write formulas once and replicate. Write formulas once and replicate. So if I'm going to write a formula here. I'm going to write the simplest one I know, just so you understand. We're saying, hey, you this reference, do you match a reference in my cash book? And guess what? Excel was created by people that speak English, which is so cool, because most of the functions in Excel are English functions. So if you look at the statement, I said I want to match a reference in my cash book to a reference in my bank statement. The function you need to use is actually called match. Yeah? So I'm going to use match, and I'm going to say, hey, match, I want you to look, can you say look up value? I want you to look at this reference. Okay? That's the lookup value. Where should you look for this value? Okay, you should look up array. Now in Excel speak or in data speak, array means just take array as either a range of data, a list, or a table. All right, so that's array. So I said, okay, look for these reference in somewhere in my cash book. So I'm going to my cash book, and all I'm going to do is highlight the entire column B. Okay, because it's the whole of column B that has my references, right? So when I highlight it, I'm going to press F4. F4 is just to lock. F4, if you look into my formula bar, you would see that I'm locking. I'm pressing F4 and it's locking with the dollar sign. So look at the syntax. We're saying match lookup value. Lookup array is this column. Match type. I put a comma. Match type basically means exact match. Because when you're doing reconciliation, you need exact. So I click on exact. Exact match is 0, and I close my bracket and I enter. Once you enter, I get 5. What does 5 mean? 5 means if you go to row 5, if you go to row 5 in your cash book, you will see that reference. Can you see it's in row 5? Let me prove that to you. I'm going to insert 2 rows here. So if I insert 2 rows here, guess what? What I'm looking for is now in row 7, right? So if I go to bank statement, guess what? You see 7. This is quite a nice way to do it because it identifies where you can find that item in another sheet. So you double click. Now you've done your reconciliation. Why have I finished my reconciliation? Because it's the NAs that are my reconcilable values. NA basically means I can't find this, I can't find this. Right? And if you can't find it, that is your reconciled value. So these are your reconciled values. Now the only thing you need to do next is go to data, filter. Once you go to filter, you filter your Recon column by NA. So once you filter your Recon column by NA, you're now left with those reconcilable values. Now if you're an accountant, you know that in your bank statement, if there is a debit in your bank statement, it basically means you made some payments. If there's a debit in your bank statement that you don't know of in your cash book, it means the bank basically withdrew money without you knowing, which is not too good, right? Except when they are legally bound to do that, like VAT, COT. So you can see it's just mainly COT and VAT. So these, in accounting speak, you can copy this and take it to maybe a Recon sheet. A Recon sheet and say, okay, bank charges, right? So for bank reconciliation, you have 4 things. You either have credits not recorded, there's a credit in your bank not recorded, or a debit in your bank or a debit in your cash not recorded, maybe unpresented checks that haven't been presented. So all you do is follow what I just did. You do that match, drag it down, all the NAs you copy and paste into a bucket in your Recon. So I copy that, I paste here, paste special values, yeah. I can then come, let's copy this one here. I can filter, I could have filtered that out. Then you come back and I can copy the items. So let me just filter this blank space out. Then I can highlight the items, maybe this, copy, take it to my Recon, paste special values. So you only need to do this pasting like 4 times, and then you would reconcile your entire bank statement. All right? So there we have it. Then, yeah, so we can now follow the same process, and by the end of the day, you have a reconciled value. And that's how you do reconciliation. Another reconciliation technique is finding duplicates, knowing where there are duplicates in your data. A cool way of identifying duplicates is just to use conditional format. But another way is to use a formula. And again, if you look at what I'm going to do here, how do you know whether something is a duplicate? How do you know whether something is a duplicate? You need to check and see if it's duplicated here. As in, is it duplicated? You ask equals to. I'm going to do a quick formula here to find out whether it's duplicated, just like you have to the right. If something is duplicated, it's going to appear more than once. So what I'm going to do here is simply say count if all right? So count if, what am I counting? This is my range. This whole data is my range. And the criteria for this particular row is I want to count this guy in this range. So how many times did he appear in that range? You will see 2. So note what I did. I just said count if this list, and how many times did this person appear, and then I drag it down. Now anywhere you see more than 1, it basically means it's a duplicate. Now you can even add to that and say, put in your formula, you say, okay, if whatever it is you've counted is greater than 1, if whatever it is you've counted is greater than 1, then identify it as a duplicate. And if not, just give me blank. Blank in Excel is double quote, double quote. Then you close your bracket and enter. Then you see duplicate and you drag down to the end, and now you can see the duplicated values showing. So that's the formula. Count if. Now there are many other formulas you can use, different techniques for reconciliation. But at the end of the day, a reconciliation is simply the value in this table, are you also in that table? And that's it. So that's all about reconciliation. All right? So let's go to another section. I know we don't have too much time, but let's quickly talk about graphs and charts. I'm going to give you one very interesting quick tip about graphs. Quite a few of us from the survey I did originally, a lot of you already know Excel pretty well. So let me just show you something interesting about graphs. When you want to create a graph, you need to kind of understand Excel in a deeper sense if you want to do some interesting things with graphs. So I'm just going to create some fictitious data here. Let me say dates. Let me say sales. Let me put today's date in here. And I'm going to copy that. Let's just make it a date. Okay, so this nice date, I drag this, let's make it months, and let's create some sales figures. Let's just create some big random sales figures. All right, so this is my data. Now when you want to create a chart, you simply click inside your data and you use a shortcut. The shortcut is Alt F1. So I click in my data and just do Alt F1 and my chart pops out, right? How do we do that? Simple. The key thing is have your data for your chart first. And normally when you have a big database, you need to summarize that database. You can use pivot table or use Excel. One of the best functions to use is sum ifs. And then you have your data that is chartable. Then you simply do Alt F1. And you create your chart. Now, once you create a chart, you can now do all sorts of adjustments and stuff on the chart. But I'll show you something else. If I have additional data, for example, I have sales and I have budget. Let me just say I have budget data. So I'm going to create some fictitious data for budget. So I have fictitious data for budget. All right. So I have my chart with fictitious data for budget. I want to now budget, I want to put this budget data in here. The best way to do it is just highlight your data, including the heading budget, copy it, click your chart and Control V, paste it. Then your budget just goes into your chart. So I just highlighted the data for budget. I did Control C, I clicked my chart and Control V, and my budget went in. Okay, so that's how you bring in budget into your data. But then if you look at this chart, it just doesn't really look that nice, right? One thing with charts is try and declutter your chart as much as possible. So these bars is too much clutter, right? In fact, these grid lines are too much clutter. Click on the grid line and delete. It's better without the grid lines. And for example, this is too much clutter. This thousands. We can show our chart in maybe say everything is in thousands or everything is in millions. So I can, for example, double click this and change the number format. Okay, you change the number format to million format. So if you check custom, fortunately, we don't have million format. We have to generate it ourselves. And the code for generating millions is inside this code you see at the bottom right here. This code down here, bottom right. I'll just put 2 commas after it. And then my numbers now change to millions. Okay, and then this bar, I don't want the bar. I want to change the chart type. I'm going to change my chart type for this bar to be a line. So under design, I go to change chart type. Once you go to change chart type, this is Excel 2016. This is the same technique in Excel 2013. Unfortunately, 2010 is different, so we won't have time to look at 2010, but this is sales, this is budget. I want my budget to be a tick. So I'm going to change my budget from a clustered column, yeah, I'm going to change it to a line. So it's a line. That's the first step. Once I change it to a line, I now click on this line, and I'm going to edit this line. How do I edit the line? Formatting cells, format data series. I'll go to this first button here, and I'm saying this line, I want to remove the line, no line, it disappears, and I'm going to use the markers. See these markers? I'm going to make them ticks. I go to marker, and then I go to, under marker, you have marker options. You say built-in, you change your built-in to maybe a tick here. You increase the size of that tick to maybe, let's say 15 or 16 or whatever size you want, and you can see it's already done. And you can change the color of that tick and stuff, but really we've accomplished what we want, and this is it. So this is your chart. And then you basically label, you can put in legends and stuff so that it looks good. Let's say legend, bring in the legend, take this legend to the top here, drag it right, and there we have our chart. Okay, and then when my data changes, you can see that my chart is updating automatically. All right, so that's how you create charts. All right, let's see if we can do one or two more questions before we move on. What if analysis, our last webinar that we did, we will get the recorded videos next month. From next month, you see all the recorded videos for all our webinars. You will see something on this. You actually will see something on this as well and something on query. So we actually did this on our previous webinars. So what I want to show you is array formulas. And array formulas are very special in Excel. So they're quite advanced. You really need to know Excel thoroughly to understand array formulas, but they are very, very useful. Let me show you how useful they can be. Array formulas. Okay, so let's open. I have a toolkit open for you. Okay, so we have an exercise in one of our courses. I think it's our financial modeling courses. Yeah, some of you asked a lot of financial modeling questions. By the way, I think it's a good time to give those that have stayed on a prize. So let me just quickly come to our slides. I'm going to give you our offer. The offer we have for you is This is a special offer of 30% discount on our courses, this list of courses here. And the course I think a lot of you would like is Financial Modeling School, which is in October. We're running it in October 10th to 14th. Now, for the mere fact of joining this webinar and we have your email address, all you need to do is send an email to training@dbrownconsulting and claim your 30% discount on this open course. And we have a business intelligence course coming up in September 5th to 9th, 19th, 20th. So these are the new powerful tools from Excel, data modeling with Power Pivot. and visual analytics with Power BI. These are some extremely powerful tools in Excel, Power Query, Power Pivot, that can make you analyze billions of transactions, billions of entries in about 10 different places. You can connect to SQL, connect to Facebook, connect to your data in text file, connect to your data in Excel, connect your data anywhere, any source, and bring it all together and create an automated report. And anytime your data changes, your report is just done. It's an extremely efficient way to work. I call it modern Excel. This is pure modern Excel. Now, financial modeling too. So basically, take note of this training at dbrownconsulting.net and claim your discounts. Just say that you've attended this webinar and you can easily claim your discount. All right, back to our last question that we're going to handle, which is array formulas. Let me start with a simple array. What do we mean by an array? Again, as I said, an array can be a list or a table. So you have cells and then you have arrays. That's how Excel works. Cells and arrays. But Excel works with cells naturally. Excel works with cells. But arrays are special. Array formulas are formulas you can write based on ranges and not cells. So if you look at this data, I have price and I have quantity. To get my total, I simply do equals to price times quantity, right? Everybody knows that. And then I drag down, Control D. That's a shortcut, by the way. If you want to copy down, it's Control D. So once I do that, my figures are changing because I'm using random numbers, so don't worry about that. They're just random numbers that automatically change every time you press F9. All right, so what's my grand total? My grand total is sum. Shortcut I just used is Alt equals to. To quickly sum something is Alt equals to. All right. Can you see 32,494? Right. Now, what about if I had 1 million of these rows, right? If you think about it, this January to December is 12, which is fine. If I had 1 million rows, that means I'm going to have 1 million calculations. And then I'll now, why do I have 1 million calculations? Simply to get a grand total. And the only thing that interests me is grand total. So why should I do 1 million calculations to get grand total? Isn't that mega inefficient? And that consumes a lot of memory space. So what an array formula does is eliminates those 1 million calculations. And how do you do it? This is how you do it. I'll break it down for you. You say equals to. I want to do equals to this range times this range. If you remember, multiplying this range by this range. But really, that doesn't make sense, right? Equals to that range times that range. If I enter, Excel is actually going to throw an error. Now, array formulas are not the natural way Excel works. But okay, Excel doesn't work by range. Why can't it work by range? For a simple reason. If I highlight this range, right, what is it that Excel is going to show in this cell? Is it going to show 11 or 12 or 14 or 12 or what is it going to show? So obviously Excel doesn't know what to show, so it shows you an error. But really, this value error is not really an error. It just means there are many, many values in there. So if I press F2 and F9, F2, F9 is what you use to audit sections of the formula. If I press F2, F9, you will now really see what is hiding inside that cell. You can see the 12, the 12, the 11, the 10, the 11, the 13, just the same way you see it under price. So what we've done here is I just said equals to a range or an array, and it shows it inside the formula. But just hold on for a while, or we'll come to the answer very soon. I'm going to multiply this array by another array. All right? So array 1 times array 2. When I enter, again, Excel is like, what is this guy talking about? I work with cells, I don't work with arrays. So Excel still doesn't know what to show you, right? So if I do F2, F9, you'll see that what it has done is it has multiplied the first list by the second list, or the first range by the second range, the first array by the second array. And look at the answers it's giving you inside the formula. But you know it has too many answers, so it can't show you one. So you can see that these answers are exactly the same as our totals. All right. So if you look at this, we said one array times another array. But whenever you use an array formula, you need what I call an aggregator function. For you to be able to use the array effectively and show an answer, you need an aggregator, something that aggregates, something that sums or brings everything together. And obviously the aggregator we want to use here is sum. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, sum take all these figures that my array brought and sum them up for me, right? That's a simple thing to ask sum, isn't it? But guess what? When you enter, sum is also confused. Sum is like, look, you did a calculation based on ranges. I don't understand what you did. You've done an array. So when you build, this is really an array formula. When you build array formulas, you must end them with a special Control-Shift-Enter. You can't just enter when you finish typing an array formula. You must hold Control and Shift together and enter. That's when it works. Now you can see the answer. And if you look at your formula bar, you will see something I call curly brackets or something we call curly brackets. That's how you identify an array formula. So to recap, to do an array formula, I use an aggregator first. Then I do the mathematics that I want inside the formula. Then I close my bracket, and then I don't enter, I do Control-Shift-Enter. And that's how you use array formulas. Cool. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. And if I go to the intro, if I go to my menu, we can see we've at least talked about array formulas. There's some other interesting things I would have loved to talk about, but as I said, we've just run out of time. But I would like one more person to kind of contribute. Let's know what was your main, how will I call it, aha moments in this presentation. You can put your hands up and just let's hear from somebody. Anybody who would like to contribute, that'll be nice. Aliyu Adamu is there. Aliyu, you're on. Hello, Aliyu. Okay, Aliyu is not ready to talk. Aliyu, your hands were up. Okay, I'll remove all the hands now. So anyone wanting to say something, just put your hands up. So Aliyu, are you there? Okay, can we talk to Benga? Is Benga there? Benga had his hands up and his hands down. You know when you're in a classroom and people put their hands up, put their hands down, it's just like that. So okay, anyone put your hands up just to tell us what you gained mainly from this presentation. So can I put the mic to Benga? Benga, I've put your mic up. The mic is with you. So Benga Adeleye. Can you tell us what was your main aha moment here? Okay, Benga is not there. You know what, while we're asking the question, I'm going to put up a poll. So I'm going to ask you one more question on the poll. And that question is a very simple question. It's simply, have you ever attended an Excel training before? So have you ever attended an Excel training? Can we all try and vote for this? Let's all try and to me, I think Excel, loads of people have attended Excel training. So, okay, half of us have voted and all of us have attended. There's nobody with a no. That's good. I'll give you a few more seconds. But while we're voting, I would like someone to basically tell us about that training and this just kind of juxtapose what we've discussed today. Is it similar to what you've heard? I would like to know what's out there. So if finally someone can put his hands up and ask a question. Umi. Is Umi there? Hello, Umi. Is Umi Ilu there? No, she's not there. Okay. Okay, there's some questions. Some people prefer to type questions in. So let me see the typed questions. Let's see questions typed in. I'm looking at some typed in questions. Okay, so let's see. Meg would like to talk. Let's hear from Meg. Where's Meg? Meg. Is Meg there? Oh no, Meg is not here. Where's Meg? Okay, well, Meg is left. Who else would like to have a chat? Where's Meg? I'm trying to look for Meg. I think Meg is okay. Put Meg. Could Meg have a chat? I've left your mic up. Let's see. Release your mic. Meg. Yeah. So can Meg Ade? You have a question?
Yes. At the time I raised my hand and then you muted me. I actually wanted you to retake that particular slide that you were working on.
Which one was that?
Like you were performing magic.
which slide, please?
I can't remember that now. That was when I prompted you and then you muted me. But I've come for an Excel training, and at the time I went for an Excel training, I was just beginning. And now, even though I still know some aspects of Excel, there's still some things that still confuse me a lot. I mean, because the version of the Excel that I'm using is not like the same thing that you're using.
No, it's not really. For me, even if you're using Excel 2003, it is powerful.
Yeah.
You get. So it's not the version. I know a lot of people say that, but it's not. It's not at all. It's a methodology thing. The biggest problem we see is the methodology, the way people use Excel. So the very first thing, if you remember those rules I told you about, people, the way people store data is so poor. It makes working with Excel so difficult. So hold on,
Hello.
sorry, I'm trying to mute some other people. Okay, so the way, so if you look at this 20, do you remember my 80-20 rule that I talked about?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
let me even put that up. So what we see is the way people work with Excel is you have one folder and you have hundreds of Excel files in there. And then someone says, please give me same period last year versus this year. Guess what you do? You go and open 2015 folder, then you go to February, then you open the file, then you now open your other file for 2016 February, you now copy, you now paste special values, then you now do a reconciliation, and then you now say, okay, our revenue has gone up by 15% compared to last year. Now that is inefficient. That's what most people do. How it should work mostly is all your data should be in one place, one single place, all the data. Yeah?
Okay, one single worksheet.
Yes, one single worksheet.
Okay.
Now someone says, but the data is so much, we have millions of transactions, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter because Excel can analyze billions of transactions and most of us don't know that. So what happens is you could have, even if you have it in Excel, make sure the structure is exactly the same. Have all those Excel files in one place and then merge it. You can merge all the Excel files using a way to merge it is Power Query, for example. Don't know if you've heard of Power Query. Have you heard of Power Query?
No. I think you mentioned it before the last webinar. But
yeah, so okay, attend the last one. That's good. I like that. So you're attending many webinars. Very good, very good. You should get the webinar award from us. So anyway, so that's what you do. You need to use Excel more efficiently. But even if you don't have Power Query, it doesn't matter. The key thing is once you have January data, make sure February is under it. Make sure March is under it, not in another sheet. Then when all those things are together, you can easily do a pivot table. You can easily do analytics. You can easily do whatever you want to do. It's so easy. But the problem I see is the way we store data, really. All right. So thanks, everyone. I don't know if we have chance for one last question, and then we close for the day. This is really, so thanks, Meg, for that question.
All right, then.
Thank you. Any other last questions? And then we close. Just put your hands up last time. Umi, are you there? Is Umi there? Okay, Umi has a problem with her mic. Reference numbers, learn new stuff, shortcuts, keys, hi, cats. Okay. Good morning. I want to confirm if it has commenced. All right. So maybe Cynthia. Is Cynthia able to talk? Cynthia, are you there? Oh, Aliu, is Aliu there? Cynthia, Aliu? Okay. All right, so everybody, so thank you very much for attending our webinar. And we, of course, the offer still stands. You can send us an email, and we would love to see you in another webinar. We do this webinar every month. The Excel webinar. There's some other special webinars that come now and again. Just make sure you follow us on our website, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. And my Twitter handle is there. If you look at my Twitter handle on the screen, you can just follow me on Twitter right now. And I always advertise all the webinars I'm doing. So my Twitter handle is at dbrownanalyst. So just add me on or follow me on Twitter, and we'll be glad to create more webinars and share all our knowledge with you guys. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll be closing the webinar now. Thank you, and bye-bye. See you next month.